Thank you. Now we're recording. So Dirk is in Ibiza. He was introduced to me by Magdalena because I had no idea about human design before. And I'm very excited about this call because, as I said in the chat room, Dirk has been giving very interesting highlights. And so on helping myself understand me, so you can do the same. Just curious here, before we start, how many know what human design is? Raise your hand, your real hand. Okay, if you have no video, well, so everybody. Okay, so, okay. How many have done a human design reading already? Ah, okay, good. That's what everybody as well, so. Okay, so Dirk, why don't we start by introducing yourself, because and introducing human design at the same time. So
okay.
you were with the creator. I'd like to start there because that positions you very differently than any other reader of human design. You were with the creator of human design, correct?
Yeah, he was not the creator of human design, but human design is something that came through a man called Alan Robert Krakauer here in Ibiza on the 3rd of January 1987. No? And it took 8 days, this event. He describes it, I think you can find it on Google, in Encounter with a Voice. There he basically explains all the weird events that led up to this encounter and how this encounter was for him, which was, he had a very black sense of humor, and basically said like it was not like meeting angels at all. It was a very painful experience. And he needed, I think, about 5 years to recover from the experience, and started teaching the information that he downloaded somehow. He started in the beginning of the 90s, and yeah, first to a small group of people. Many of them were sannyasins from the Osho community in India and in Oregon. And then slowly, like, he had a very eclectic clientele, so to speak. So there's all kinds of people from all different kinds of groups of the directions in the world that came together. And I met it in the beginning of 2000, just 2001, 2. And my entry into human design came to, I did a master's in social anthropology, and I mean, social anthropology is basically, or an aspect of social anthropology, the theory of anthropology is about what is it to be human, you know? And it's as if anthropology uses lenses, you know? So every time anthropologists have always been putting on lenses. And about 150 years ago, that lens was inspired by Darwin. So they thought that, at some level or another, his suggestions of evolution would apply to humans. And so there was all kinds of things going on, like, oh yeah, maybe there's a tribe somewhere that doesn't know about the procreation and how that works, and that would make the jump from uncivilized to civilized. All these evolutionary perspectives were imbued in anthropological lenses. And then came another anthropological lens, which is more functionalist, which is still quite a lot in use in the US. And then a big jump in anthropology was Claude Lévi-Strauss. So he was living for a long time in Latin America, in the Amazon. And there was a lot of research done with the Shuar Indians over there. And slowly, what happened is that these anthropological lenses, instead of being oriented outward, they started getting more oriented inwards. And after structuralism, we get to cognitive anthropology. And that's where it starts getting really interesting in a way, because the question that we got was this, there's zillions, like thousands and thousands of ethnographies. Very interesting, very beautiful descriptions of how tribal people or small communities or social phenomena work or function or all this kind of stuff. And the question was, is all this human diversity limited or unlimited? And that's a very interesting question, because on the first answer would be like it's unlimited. It's as saying like, is the variety of human beings, the biological variety of human beings unlimited? Yeah, it's unlimited. Like there's never going to be any human equal to another. And at the same time, it's limited. And in biology, for example, the limitation is obviously our code in terms of DNA. Now, if there is no codification for it, you're not going to find it in humans. If there is no code for, I don't know, I'm just saying something, no, like yellow fluorescent eyes, or you just name it, it's not going to be there because it's not in the code. And so in terms of how we display ourselves socio-culturally, materially, religiously, kinship-wise, all those ways of being, cognitive anthropology is also looking for, wait a second, like if it ain't in us, if there's not a code cognitively in us, you're not going to find it out there. And those researches were going on back also in the 90s when human design started coming out. And interestingly, that came about by bringing all kinds of academic orientations together. So psychology or sociology and anthropology and biogenetics and all kinds of stuff came together and started looking into that. What do we have? What are we born with? So we all have a recognition of gravity, or we all have a capacity, like we all at some point start saying, this is mine, we appropriate things. Or so they start finding the code that we are born with. And then all of a sudden I come out of university and I bump into human design in a magazine through a psychiatrist that had written an article about it in Barcelona. I went to see her, and she introduced me to this tool. And human design, which was later obviously very much clarified through my exchanges with Ra and stuff, but human design is basically the limitation, the energetic architecture, not only of our human form, also of other forms. So you can look at the energetic coding of and the architecture of insects, plant life, fish, fowl, mammals. There's all kinds of atomic forms that carry a certain energetic architecture that we are born with. Then, when you look at the design, you don't know if this design is some Shuar Indian or some Hadza tribe in Tanzania or somebody who's expressing this in Polynesia. And that's where a lot of people get lost. A lot of people, they think they see their design and they get somehow into a narcissistic trip. I am this and I am that, and this is because, no, wait. You're looking at a layer way deeper of who you think you are, really. You're looking at how you are, you're first of all looking at your energetic architecture and how you are wired within that energetic architecture. And that energetic architecture and your wiring within it has an inherent intelligence, which we could call the intelligence of Mother Earth inside of you. It's not your life here. It's the Earth's life through you. So you get to see in your design, like, oh, I am this kind of a fractal of love walking around here, and there is a consciousness and intelligence sitting inside of me that knows exactly how to navigate this trip called life. But most of us, me included, obviously, is that we are stuck in an old paradigm somehow. We're stuck in thinking that it's our thoughts that manage our lives, so that it's we is our identification with our self-concept that manages our lives. And that's like, I remember those words from Terence McKenna. I was like looking at he was pointing to psilocybin or other psychotropic plants and saying like, they're very good disc eraser, you know. And it's true. It's like we are running on old programming, and we have a potential inside of us that is way beyond that old programming. And that's what human design actually points to. It points towards it. And then obviously the whole I think human design is probably the most sophisticated GPS that you can find in terms of navigating this plane.
Dirk, before you start, thank you for the introduction. Before you start explaining more what it is, for those of you who don't know, what convinced you that this is true? Because there are many, tools, like especially this is based on astrology, right? Like, I mean, you have to get the first analysis. We'll show it later if you want. You put your time and date of birth. So what convinced you, Dirk, not Ra, you, that, oh shit, this is so true, I need to actually,
honestly,
you dedicated your life to it?
Honestly, I'm still not convinced it's true.
Okay.
No, because it is by not being convinced that it's true, that true logic, true inquiry is staying open to seeing how does it reveal itself. I have a certain like I look at it and then I look at my life, or I look at circumstances, or I look at people, or I look and I start seeing, oh, I can see it. So, and I would really be very glad to see and it happens on certain levels with design, to see like, oh fuck, how is this playing out here? Wait a second, how is this playing out? Oh, this is playing out like this. So it's not like I'm somebody. The other day somebody told me like he knew somebody who was a devotee of human design. That's bullshit. To me, that's bullshit. You cannot be a devotee to human design. You got to stay open. You got to stay open the way like you use a GPS. You're driving your car and the thing says it's left or right, and you go like, where's the fucking road? Like, oh yeah, it's over there. Like that. So,
but you still dedicated your life to it, right? Like,
yeah. So it started obviously when I walked out of my first analysis, and they told me how my energetic wiring worked. First of all, I was like, these people are nuts. I don't understand anything. Like, what the fuck are they talking about? But actually, the thing that convinced me that it was interesting was that I was standing in front. I was actually standing in front of a waterfall, and there was something in the coding at that particular moment, that talked about how the moon is influencing your being at this moment. And it was talking about shock. And I was standing in front of the waterfall, and I was just looking, and all of this water was just splashing on my face. And I was, wow, that's a funny coincidence. So I started just looking deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's just by seeing when I started to know the designs of my parents, of my girlfriend, of my brother, sister, it was like, okay. So that's how I can relate to your essence. Now I see something of your essence. Obviously, I still see all the bullshit that is on top of it. But now I see your essence. Who are you really? And that's quite remarkable. It's quite remarkable.
Okay, so thank you, Dirk. So let's so people can go online, right? What is the URL? Humandesign.com or something?
That's
yeah.
You can
Or
go
you
on.
have a software on your Mac. I saw like very complicated, but you can go online and get your own chart if you want. Can you show a chart? So you go to Human Design. If I don't even know the URL, but just Google it and you put your just your date of birth and time of birth, and then let's get into what it looks like. What that anyone can get. So that's the design. Oh, here we go. We have even my
So
son there.
you go there, like that's my program, create a chart, you drop in the data that is necessary, which are astrological data. And then you look at the chart. And like I said, okay, this guy can be anybody and can live like this can be the design of I don't know who. And there's probably people who have similar designs. Happens to be Loic's design. Before the construct of Loic is created, this is already there. So in a way, a person's human design is like the seed of a tree. The whole tree is already in the seed. And the potential of the tree sits inside of the seed. And the potential of the tree is already sitting inside of the seed before the seed even started germinating. And all of that is in here. Obviously, the moment you are born and you see this is this person's design, no? You still go through we are born with 25% of our brain developed when we are born as humans, okay? That's 2/3 less than a monkey. So we need an enormous amount of specific care, an enormous amount of emotional attachment when we are very young, the right nurturing, the right contact, it's a very delicate process to actually imbue and preserve and nurture consciousness in human beings. It's very easy come on, this we have to admit, it's very easy to survive. No, we're, I don't know, close to 9 billions. We're really good at surviving. But when it comes to being conscious, we're really bad. We're a bunch of killer monkeys walking around on Earth for the moment. So our consciousness level is very low. So this person gets born. The first thing you see in design, and it's something you need to pay attention to, is that, what is this? This is a prenatal configuration. So this is something that, what is this? It's basically from the moment you are conceived, no? Your dad conceives your mom, and that seed starts at a certain point, it pops, so to speak, and poof, you start the fetus start the division of the cells, and slowly the fetus starts building, and it builds, and at a certain point, the only thing it requires from that point onwards is to get fat, to grow. But everything is there. The organs are there, all the limbs, everything is there. That's that moment, okay? And so everything that is in red talks about how the form, there is, and its inherent consciousness is wired. So here we're looking at a form, at a biogenetic machinery, so to speak, okay, that is oriented or that is wired in a way. All this is carries certain frequencies. No, this is certain frequency, and this frequency of this form says, you know, I feel good, I'm satisfied, I'm happy when I'm self-empowered. So I gotta do something, I gotta be busy with something that makes me, above all, strong. So we have many names for that, you know. It's like growing spine, spining up, doing something that motivates you, standing in your strength, being charismatic, all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, this form also says, and I'm here to bring about mutation. I'm here to bring about something that wasn't there before. I'm here to change. I'm here to you know, life as such, if it's just life, it's boring, 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 until I see something new. Then I'm all on and I get self-empowered. And that's that person's form. So the guy is not thinking about that stuff. Okay? It's how the form works. So you can imagine, I'll talk about this later, but for step by step. This thing, in each form, from plant life upward, no, there sits what they call in design personality. Personality has nothing to do with what you think your personality is. I've been looking at myself for quite a long time. I know I'm a scary guy. I'm an intimidating guy. I have this and that kind of character trait and all this kind of stuff. That's not what this is. This stuff is what, for centuries, in at least our Occidental culture, we've called soul. In Hindu culture, for example, they called it your witnessing consciousness. It's that choiceless, ever watching, ever present spaciousness inside of us. That's what that is. Now, anybody involved in self-development, for example, knows that they use these terms like, you got to peel the onion. Yeah, you peel the onion. And in the onion, there is the scary Dirk, intimidating Dirk, the asshole Dirk, the very nice guy Dirk, whatever kind of stuff. But that's all the onion, in order to arrive at some point to, I'm just a watcher. That's this watcher. And when you look at this watcher of this person, you see, oh, you know, this watcher is really here to find the way, it's how the watcher sits inside of that body. And this watcher sits inside of that body saying, you know, I'm here to explore the creative aspect of what it is to come closer to myself.
Can you explain, Dirk, the different, I'm sorry I interrupt you, but obviously you take me, but you could take anyone. In general, not me particularly, I mean, whatever you want, but it's not about me, right? The different centers.
Yeah.
Can you explain what those are?
You see that this person has a defined means there is a consistent energetic presence. This guy has a consistent energetic presence when it comes to vitality, what we call chi. The orientation of his chi, of his vitality, is oriented towards doing something that's satisfying, and that when I do it, it makes me happy and it allows me to relax. That's the orientation of this chi. And it's connected to this thing, which is about the higher self. This is about my life force is at service and feeds my higher self. Now, there is an issue there, because once our higher self is a journey to get to, most of us I assume, we are identified with our self-concept, not with our higher self. Our higher self, okay, is the recognition that we are absolutely unique. When we recognize that we are absolutely unique, what happens? We stop comparing. And what is going on most of our lives? We're always comparing. Oh, the neighbor has a nice wife, mine is not so much this. Oh, the neighbor has a nice car, oh, mine is not that. We're always comparing.
So can you compare to Eckhart Tolle, for example? Can you click on, I see you have a tab Eckhart Tolle here. So keep going and...
Yeah, Eckhart Tolle has a completely different design.
Yeah,
like
you
what
see
would,
it here?
why would, what? Wait a second. So
can you switch to that tab to Eckhart Tolle just to see, just by curiosity?
Eckhart
There
Tolle?
you go. Okay, so
Eckhart Tolle is also somebody with a defined sacral energy, so defined life force, which is all oriented towards, his orientation is live a life that is empowering and a creative contribution, trust in your knowing, and I'm here to transmit that to you. So he's a transmitter of how to live in an empowered way, okay, and how to identify with it, how to yeah, like go deeper and deeper and deeper, say more and more and more and more yes to that. So to come back to you, when this soul comes into the body, and there's, interestingly enough, like, because this your community somehow brings together, there's this is more on the science front, weirdly enough, but there's certain experiences you can do, for example, with 5-MeO DMT or Bufo, no? Where you see that in, when this and this come together, it's very interesting to see what happens there. This guy, okay, who he like, in the end, what he is consciously engaged with is like, I'm here to follow my own convictions. What his body says is also something really individual. So what the body says, yeah, I'm here to follow my own convictions, and I'm here to be empowered with what I do, and I want to do something that's out of the ordinary, because actually, if it's too ordinary, I'm bored. But what happens when the soul comes into the body, you see all of a sudden that there is a life force over here that gets created and talks about becoming social, putting something out socially in a certain wavelength with others so that other people can benefit from it. So, and that's a combination of conscious and unconscious. The red is unconscious, the black is conscious.
And Dirk, because I don't want this to be a reading about
No,
me.
it's not about you. It's just happening. Oh. That's what happens. So you get to see in design how your energetic wiring is laid out in those centers and channels. And then you get to see where your energetic receptivity sits. That's incredibly interesting.
You could do a human design of a community as well. Can you do many people like
yeah, you can bring people together. Yeah,
we are 20 people here. You could not do like, no. Okay, yeah, that sounds crazy.
You bring when you look at the openness in a chart, okay, you're looking at the energetic infrastructure of how your mind works, and how your mind works in terms of wanting to decide your life. So
can I ask a question, Dirk?
Please go ahead.
I was about to offer that.
So the numbers in these centers or triangles, squares.
Yeah.
Do they differ per person? Because I noticed
No,
that.
they're always the same.
Oh,
These
okay.
numbers are always standing in the same position.
Okay. That was my question, because I noticed on the Eckhart Tolle that the numbers were the same.
Yeah, always the same.
Okay.
So talking about numbers, no? That's one of the interesting things about design. I have a question. The Paua logo, what does it mean? What is this? What is these arrow up, arrow down, arrow left, arrow right? What is that?
And why do you ask?
I'm just interested.
It's coming from Magdalena and I were sitting with Ashaninka tribe in the Amazon forest, and it's from their visions. They draw things like this. This one is adapted, but they are the people of the stars.
Okay.
So it's all inspired by stars. That's might be why you like it.
Sometimes these things, what I thought it pointed towards is north, south, east, west. That's a very old computer program.
No, it might. And we also sun dancers and moon dancers here, and the 4 directions are very
So
important.
the four directions I saw also, Mihai has something about the 4 directions and is back there. Like the 4 directions is like a very old computer program. You know this, no? Shamanic teachings, they say, like, in the north you are meeting these kind of forces, and in the south you are meeting these kind of forces, and in the east and in the west you meet those kind of forces, no? Human design is laid out in what they call a programming wheel, no? That computer program, that old computer program, is still there. From here till here is west. From here till here, east, north, and south. Okay? And you get to see how, through human design, you get to see very clearly how do we get programmed when we, for example, the moment we get born, what happens? Okay, we need to, the first thing that happens when we get born is like we get born into a web of ancestors. We get born into the past. No, I'm Dirk. I get born, and I get born into something that's already there. I get born in a family that's called Nellens. I get born into a culture that considers males in a certain way. I get born in a culture that is of a social, all there. You know, Yuval Harari calls it the web of meaning. We are born in that. And then what we need to be approached in our sensitivity, like, you know, really, I see the essence of Dirk, and I approach my child like really for who he is, and then I relate and I connect with him, and I see his spirit, and then I embrace it. All these things over here, all emotional gates. Now that's the interesting thing about these numbers. You find them all over here. This center over here is talking about emotional energy and how we stand in it. This person stands in it receptively. So he stands open there. Anything they feed him that ain't clean, and he's receptive to it, and he can make it his, and he can identify with it. And anything he recognizes as like, oh, wow, that's really clean, whoops, his system relaxes. So obviously here there's a tremendous amount of conditioning forces being present in his structure that actually the mind got identified with. When you see that, you see like, okay, you got an open emotional system. So there is a tendency in your mental defenses and the way that they have that they have been armored within the muscular structure of the body, okay, that says, I don't want to feel this, I don't want to feel this, I don't want to feel this. So this person has, I'm not saying that for sure it's like this, but the probability, for example, that the breathing doesn't go that deep, or that the diaphragm is blocked, or that there is a tendency to run away from feeling too much, or that there is a tendency of not addressing certain emotional issues within his own structure, is part of the mental defensive stance. And we know that as long as we are standing in life through our mental defenses, we're running on old programming. And when we run on old programming, we're not really contributing to higher consciousness, to coming closer to consciousness.
Dirk, let's take some questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, totally.
And by the way,
Go ahead.
Raise your hand. Yeah, but
Shoot, because
let's check if you have questions first. But do you guys have questions? Raise your hand or just go if you have a question. Twenty people, no question. Very good.
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. So you briefly mentioned Bufo, DMT5-MeO.
Yeah.
Just coming from a week of working with that, you kind of didn't finish that thought. But what were you saying? How does that relate to your human design that you see? Can you elaborate on that thought?
From all of the psychedelic experiences that I've participated in, Bufo is the one that shows most clearly that when you take it, this somehow shoots off, so to speak. Like your trip goes, this is the trip of the consciousness. So this is showing your voyage, okay? And on that voyage, there's even information over here that can help you to navigate that voyage. And in the meanwhile, this stuff is what shows you the body. So there are certain people, when you see they take it and they fall down. So you have other people, they take it, they stand up. You got other people, all kinds of reactions. And this is, you can see it in how their body consciousness is designed to be, while their other consciousness is all of a sudden on a 5-MeO DMT trip. It doesn't last long, so at some point they come back, and it's as if they click back into each other. And what is so interesting about Bufo is that you can really pay attention to the spaces where the coming back clicks in. So this is here, and in the case of this, and here.
Dirk, now you got me curious. I never taken Bufo. So will I stand up or will I fall down?
The likelihood that you stand up.
Okay. Well, so what are the two sentences that are going to, not about me again, but what are the two things that happen together when you take Bufo? And why do you say that person, let's say, stands up?
It's not so much about the standing up. The more interesting part is to see what happens over here, where the connections between the conscious and the unconscious, because those are the growing schools of that person's life. It's like in your life, for example, you have to see it for yourself, no? But your social dimension and your contribution to the social dimension, in some way or another, that means your contribution to the building of human individual rights. For each person to have access and to be a contributor to that is not necessarily so in line with who you think you are and what your body says. It's just something that happens when those two sit together. And that's interesting because human design says that we are a dual consciousness. We have a body consciousness and we have a spirit consciousness. And those two, they sit together in this life. And the navigator actually is the body. So the sitting of those two together is like an arranged marriage. They don't always fit. And they have stuff to deal with each other. And the stuff that they have to deal with each other sits in those, like for many people, sits in where those two come together. So that's the elaboration on the Bufo stuff. Because there you can really see it.
Thank you.
Okay. Frédéric, you had a question?
Yeah, question and a reaction, which I posted. I ran the chart and it's just, I'm floored because I've never yet seen something this powerful. And I want to ask you a question that relates to some of the conversations we're having in the WhatsApp group on our relation to nature and how we're harming it. Most of these models and the relationship between the two minds that you just alluded to, Dirk, the spirit and the body, how is that being affected right now in your analysis with how much we're harming nature and thereby we're harming ourselves, because nature is us and we are nature. And we forget that. And we're consciously shooting ourselves in the foot. And are you seeing these models shift because of what we're doing to nature?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My observation is that we got so astray that it is very difficult for us to trust our bodies. So one of the interesting, Ra, the guy who brought human design out, was very much in awe of Lao Tzu. And Lao Tzu, somebody who was there, I don't know how many thousands of years ago, but quite a lot, had a very clear understanding of, if we get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the mind and identified with the mind, we are becoming all but ecological. We're on a destructive trip if we accentuate more and more and more and more and more mind. And human design is saying mind is never going to open the door to consciousness. The body does, which is basically saying you're made of clay and water or something like that. It comes from the earth. It's by being in tune with the earth that your consciousness opens up. And when one thing is to see the design of somebody, no? And then to see like how much are they really in tune with their body, with just being there, which means like, you know, we're talking there, I was talking about emotions, no? Here. And how many people can say that they really breathe like a baby breathes when they sleep? No? That relaxedness of the belly that is just like pumping, and the diaphragm is open and the heart is completely surrendered, and you know the interconnectedness is an obvious, and all these kind of things. So human design can be a very nice candy for the mind, but exploring human design is exploring, trusting life, trusting. It's human design is in some way or another bringing living ecologically inside of yourself. It's like, yeah, listen to Mother Earth inside of you. Try that. It's quite a challenge. It's quite a challenge. And why I find it so interesting to be able to talk in front of a community that has something to do with some of them have something to do with, or bringing together technology and stuff that has to do with consciousness, is because this programming field, okay, which is very fascinating. For example, from here till here, talks all about the developmental stages of childhood. So all of that stuff is actually, it's about Freud and Reich and all the people who were talking about the development, the biopsychological development of the brain and the nervous system and neural pathways and all this kind of stuff, okay? And this is how this stuff is anchored in the body, and this is how we go about it in relations with others, and this is how it nurtures our spirit. So it's all laid out there. And what do? We go about that programming field in a very rudimentary old way. We all think it's about survival, that we got to do something in order to survive. And the proposal, so to speak, of human design, or the finger that it points to, or the finger that all of us are in some level or another interested in, is that, is there no way to kind of like increase the consciousness here? Is there no way to increase the potential of this consciousness? Yeah, there is a way. But the way is you got to go back to nature. And it's not only going back to nature and, I just made my vegetable garden. It's about going back to nature in this thing. No, in trusting that when my intuition says something, I better listen. Or when my gut says like, you better listen. Or when your emotions say like, you better go in there. So that's what it is about. And that's very challenging because there is no education there. There's nothing that supports us. And at this stage, all the technological advancement that is there is just using, okay, our frailness on all these levels, especially here. We are in need of connection. We know we are in need of connection. And technology knows humans are in need of connection. How the fuck can we exploit that? That's how they go about it. And I still assume that there is a possibility of turning that switch. Like maybe there is a possibility in coming to meet them there, which in the end, yeah, well, I don't know. I want to leave it there. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, then, if I can ask another question. So technology, and let's say specifically artificial intelligence, which is a big topic in this community, is extremely mind-driven.
Yes.
It's like almost mind only. So how would you say how would that affect us?
I think that's like, honestly, I think that is going to create, or that is pushing into two different directions. One is, as long as we think we are our mind, which sadly to say so is probably the case of all of us, okay? As long as we think we are our mind, in the face of artificial intelligence, we are to some degree or another fucked. But if we recognize that we are not our mind, but the awareness behind it, okay, then artificial intelligence can give us a huge advantage. Like, you can do all the stuff that my mind, which is already the case. Like, I don't calculate anymore. I was really good at it when I was at school. Now I don't, my brain doesn't do it anymore. I use a machine, but it didn't eat away on my consciousness. So I think my perspective is that it's pushing us to go deeper into consciousness, because it's the only place we can still be us. But it's a dangerous step. It's not an easy step at all. As long as we are identified with our self-concept, okay, which is, I don't know, I'm a lawyer, or I'm an accountant, I did my whole life, my studies, my friends, my this, my that, my concept, my self-concept, and all of a sudden there's a machine who does it better than you, and you're done. Woof. If you think you're that ain't gonna do much good. So the way forward, and what distinguishes us from artificial intelligence and whatever can derive from that, is that one thing is sure: artificial intelligence is not imbued with a soul, is not imbued with a personality crystal. No, these things have names. No? So this is called a personality. These are, Ra used to call this crystals of consciousness. They're basically dark matter inside of us. Like, the machine ain't imbued with this. It might eventually be imbued with this. That's incredible. Might be imbued with this, that there is some kind of biogenetic way of creating a form that, like, biogenetic form. But still there is no soul in it. So the only thing that distinguishes us or keeps us safe is the development of, the seeing and the awareness of the soul. That's what I have to say on this.
Anybody else? You wanted to say something, Dirk, before we started? We talked about technology, and this is design, right? This is a technology. Like, you're basically telling us, like, every human being here and on this planet, we can decode it. Kind of a bold statement when you think about it.
Why is human design, like, you also asked me, like, why did you get into it, no? And dedicated your life to it and stuff like that. I find it astonishing that there is information that can tell us how we are energetically coded. That's incredible. It's like, this is, let me see if I have somewhere. This is me. Huh? That's what I got to see. It's like, hey, this is the way you're coded. What? This is the way I'm coded? Okay, that's you. But now the thing is, when I meet this one who was there yesterday, I get to experience it. It's like, this person sitting next to me yesterday, and all of a sudden I'm feeling like all the sensitivity that comes in, all the emotional sensitivity that comes in, and the juice for the emotional sensitivity that is all of a sudden present. And then how that energy gets material, like it gets out there. And so now, by knowing I'm this and I'm so receptive to energy, I get to enjoy being receptive to energy. Or then I meet this one, and then I see how ambitious she can be, and how judgmental, like, and how themes that are just there. I get to enjoy my girlfriend 10 times more than before knowing, or my brother, my sister. Human design gives you the possibility of tapping into a person's essence.
Is that all
and
your girlfriends
nurturing
here?
it. Huh?
Is that all your girlfriends, Matabs?
No, imagine.
By the way, before because we've been here an hour, and I know from experience some people start leaving after an hour.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
By all means, let's keep going. You tell us, Dirk. But obviously you are in Ibiza. You live in your cave or something. We can get readings from you, and that's how you live. So thank you very much for accepting to give us your time here for free for the community. But if anyone wants a reading, can I share you details on the community?
Yeah, please.
Or
Like
WhatsApp?
I am
Okay.
like I'm in the process after 20 years of being, exploring all this stuff to be. I want to be more out. I want to start sharing what I saw, how I see it, what this, what that. Like I want to get out. So obviously I do online analysis. I'm what they call a certified analyst, which is bullshit term for just somebody who knows how to do it.
You guys have the best. I mean, like he worked with whomever downloaded this thing, so he's kind of reader number one. So he's here. There are thousands in the world, of course. But if anyone wants a reading from Dirk, I will share Dirk's contact on WhatsApp. I just wanted to get this out of the way, and by all means, I did 3 of them. Each time there is more. It's really fascinating if you want to do that.
It's for people.
So,
it's for people who are interested mostly. No, it's for people who are interested in the journey to what the higher consciousness. This is a truth. Is something that we have a key to, and the key to higher consciousness is us. The key is buried inside of us. So unless we learn to accept ourselves, to love ourselves, to surrender to our fractal of the love of the universe, because we are all materializations of love, unless we can get there, okay, then the show begins. So
talking about the show, Dirk. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, the show. I mean, just by the show, I mean the being in awe of life, being grateful for life, being wow, I'm alive, and I don't have to run it. Something inside of me knows how to run it because it is from that.
So can you elaborate? Yeah, no, go ahead. I keep interrupting you.
Elaborate on what?
No, you were talking about the game. Like, can we talk about the world and your vision of the world we are in, given what you've been spending your life on studying this, which obviously is very rare. So the world is in a pretty bad. We were talking about it in the community yesterday. So, mind issues, mental health issues at the top, right? People are suffering. Inflation, governments being broke, environment issues, the planet suffering, all that, right?
You were asking in the beginning, no? Do you believe in design or something, or I don't know? And I said, I still don't really trust it. Okay, so this aspect of design, there is an aspect of design that has to do with huge global cycles. So that means the perspective there is that it comes from the precession of the equinoxes. It has something to do with Vedic astrology. There is a perspective there that says that, like Shakespeare says, life takes place on a scenery. And every 411 years, they change the decor. So you got to imagine, to make it understandable. Me and you and all these people here, we are enjoying each other and blah, 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 blah. We're all, going about life, and we're doing it in a bar. Okay? That's where it's taking place. Great, we're in a bar. And then at some point, they change the scenery. So at some point, it becomes, well, now you're on an airplane, or now you're in the desert, or now you're over there. It will immediately start changing our interactions, what we talk about, how it goes, what happens, whatever, immediately. No? And in human design, there is a whole chunk of the information that is about global cycles. And there we are at the verge of closing a global cycle. So in 3 years, 2027, or 3-4 years, in February, actually, to be exact, of 2027, there is the scenery is finally changing. So that means that where we are right now, the decor is going out, the decor is getting changed. It's like, oh, it's changing. And what is being changed is 411 years of energetic imprinting pointing towards community, security, logic, support. So think about that. Science, logic has never been as strong as in the last 411 years. Actually, 411 years ago, when it started, okay, there's a guy that came to the Vatican and said, no, like, we are turning around the sun. The whole clash started back then. And talking about community, I mean, that's very easy to understand. We're calling it in the global village. We're in a global village right now. All that glue that holds us together is all falling away. So that's part of what we're living. And we're going into a direction that is to be seen. We're going into the direction that has an enormous consciousness potential, but it also has a potential of that we have to rely on ourselves. We cannot rely on all the security and support and in infrastructure and all this kind of stuff. So that's just talking about that. Okay, would be an event like this on its own. Because during the pandemic, I was bored and I started looking 411 years back all the way to the Roman Empire and what happened every 411 years. So it's very interesting to see how those historical changes happen. And what's the highlight of it? For us, the highlight was the Industrial Revolution, for sure. There was another period where the highlight was Leonardo da Vinci. There was, each period of 411 years has its highlights. There was another period when actually it was the Islamic culture and Islamic thought and all that kind of stuff. That was the highlight. That's where at those days, like where women were most free and all, and had access to study and stuff like that. Can you imagine?
So what's the highlight now? Where are we going into? Can you describe that?
We're going into a shift of consciousness that is unimaginable for most of us, and what is bringing it to the foreground is AI. AI is, oh my God, this is threatening to our species, but it's just an aspect of it. So we're going into a period where there's a tremendous shift of consciousness happening, and whether we can ride that wave or not, we'll have to see. And that there is that all the support structures are going to fall down. That's also something we got to see. Can you live with the fact that, I don't know, now it's such an easy thing, I have access to wealth, or I have access to social security or pensions, and bam, 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 the whole thing falls down.
Wait, pause. So the capitalist system that we know, the rules we know, the safety we know, the retirement things, all that falls down. Is that what you're saying?
that's where I'm not saying anything. I just know the keys. No, I know the keys, no? And I see, okay, those are the keys of those 411 years. So community building, logic, focus on talent and skills, getting deeper and deeper in understanding the illusion in which we live. So that means being able to go all the way into nanotechnology and deeper. And those 411 years, they started when who was it? The guy who said that we're turning around the sun, Copernicus? No, not Copernicus, Galileo. Galileo said that, and that's how it brought us step by 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 step into nanotechnology, dark matter, and what's his name? Not Einstein, the last one, the one who was speaking from his voice like that. I don't remember. That guy. Hawkins, yes. So we're in that stage, and the next keys, okay, they are survival, being self-empowered, being like awakening to yourself in the now, change of consciousness in terms of emotions, and the possibility to start something completely new. How those codes will reveal themselves, I am a watcher of it. I don't.
Can you share? Can you share what you shared with me about the dogs, the next generation of humans?
Yeah, that's one of the aspects of human
No,
design.
but tell everyone, because this is like so
one
scary.
Of the aspects.
It's good to be shared.
One of the aspects of design, one of the human design is a body of knowledge that came out. There's a lot of information in there. It's a cosmology and blah, blah, blah. We focus on human design, but in human design, there is other chunks of information. One very interesting, by the way, which has to do with dying and what happens after death. So there is one chunk in design that is called rave, that's talking about children getting born out of our DNA. So our children out of wombs of girlfriends and partners of us, so to speak. No? So we're talking about women who will be in their who are now in their late teenagers and will soon be in their early 20s. Out of the wombs of some of those women comes a creature that is humanoid, and that actually is the step forward from children that now we identify as highly autistic. So highly autistic children right now, that sounds really freaky, but highly autistic children right now can be seen at some level or another as being part of as like a prototype of something that is coming. And the consciousness of those children and the capacity for consciousness of those children, which in human design terms are called raves, and will be born, or their possibility of being born, and the mutation starting to filter into our human realm, is from 2027 onwards. Those children have an access to consciousness that we only have glimpses of. And the glimpse is that sometimes when I look into the eyes of my lover, there is this glimpse that I can have that we are one for a minute. I don't know, that's a lot, for 30 seconds. And those children have access to that consciousness consistently. So we already know in certain autistic children what certain, like that there are consciousness realms that they have access to. I mean, think about the back in the day, Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. No, that guy had access to a consciousness field that was like, what the hell is this? And that's why I find it so interesting, because in human design, that information is there. You can see the chart of those children, how the energetic layout works. And then you get to, he said, back in those days, Ra said, they have access to a consciousness that he was dark in his humor. No, so he was just saying, it's like the way we look at dogs, they will be looking at us. Okay. Now, what is already here now in the zeitgeist that is doing that and going that direction? AI. So that's one of the things that marvel me. No, it's like, it's funny to see in our human, in society, that when we go into a certain direction, it reflects in art, or it reflects in psychology, or it reflects in, and now it reflects in technology, and it reflects. So zeitgeist is a very interesting thing. It's always revealing something. And what AI is revealing in terms of human design, from my perspective, is that, wow, that's already pointing into what's going to happen and come out of our DNA. And there was training in human design to be able to recognize the potential of a rave child being born. You can see it. Like, there are certain indications that at least tell you it is or it is not. That it. So
you see something special in the chart of
yes,
autistic,
you see something. You see specific things need to be there in order for this person to be a rave, to be a rave consciousness. Huh?
All the autistic children, you find something in the chart?
No, that's a difficulty. There is, but if that's not there, it's not a rave. And it has to do with well, some people who know something about human design, it has to do with the variables. It means that all of in some way or another, evolutionarily wise, what it points to is that the right hemisphere of the human brain is becoming more and more and more predominant. The last time that the right hemisphere of the brain was predominant was during Neanderthal. Homo sapiens is left hemisphere. And we are something in between left hemisphere and right hemisphere. But where we're going to, where life is going to, is right hemisphere. So again, right hemisphere means that it's like a sponge. You completely tap into something. And in terms of consciousness, that's like, well, I completely tap into you. There is no, it's in some way or another, actually it means, which is not easy to convey, but it means the end of individuality. Like raves, those children go beyond individuality. Our glory as human beings is that we are individuals. And to embrace our individuality, when we completely embrace our individuality, we get to compassion. And compassion is, I can feel for you. Because I can completely feel for myself, I can feel for you. And raves, they are already in that. There is no more me. There is already, it's immediately me, you. So the consequences of that is that they are able, or they will be able, we'll have to see what happens. We all keep our eyes open, but that what we know as a family construct, you were asking about groups. No, yes, in human design, you can look at groups. And the basic construct is called a penta. That's a basic construct, is a construct of 5, which we know as families, most of us. So any family on earth, okay, is dysfunctional. There's no functional family anywhere. Life with the neighbor, they can drink Coca-Cola on Wednesdays and I can't, and they this and we can't, and they that and we can't. So at some level or another, we're all a victim to our family. Think about that. Because it eats something away from our individuality in a way. But those creatures are able to tap into that construct consciously. And so the information about that is like, they will be more equipped or better equipped to deal with this earth materially. So they will have an advantage over us in terms of being in this world. Now, there is where the information more or less stops. No? Then starts my imagination. My fantasy about it, for example, no, is like, I don't know, maybe they can make lollipops from nuclear waste. That would be great. Who knows? You know, if you have an advantage over what is a disadvantage for us, who knows where it goes? We never know. But anyway, that information is just to be seen. You know, it's not something to be sure about.
John has a question.
Yeah, thanks. I'm finding all this really fascinating, especially when you just started talking about the raves. And I was curious because it reminds me a lot of the things that were talked about for a while about indigo children and crystal children. I wonder if you've heard of that, if there's any overlap, and it seems like human design is almost offering another layer of clarity on it because you're getting the energetic structure of what makes someone like that different from, let's say, the current humans that are here now.
Yeah, like you see, those terms are interesting. All that stuff when I'm talking about that stuff, I'm talking about these arrows. Okay. So these arrows, they actually point to a consciousness field and to the brain. So this is left-oriented brain. I'm a very old motherfucker. I'm a survival-oriented strategic bastard. That's how my mind works. But I have it in a completely open structure. So it is what it is. But that's the oldest configuration that you can get. Okay. And then you see that how is that for this children or that children? And that's interesting. Look, I don't know. Let's have a look. For example, here's Loic's. No? Here you get the total opposite. This guy is oriented totally to the right. So this guy's consciousness field is not strategic at all. Okay, so he's all about, you know, you just it's like if you want to make me do something, like tie my shoelaces or something. Okay, you want to teach that to me? You sit down, you take a shoe, you take the lace and the other one, and you show me how you do it, and you tell me how you do it. Okay, this guy is like mumbling around there and looking at it and going like, okay, got it. Just by absorbing it, he gets it. So it's a consciousness feels completely different. Now, whether it's being correctly, whether it's being potentiated in his life, we don't know. No? But it's not so, how do you say this? Propense, like it's not so at service, okay, of an old educational system, this one. And then you get all kinds of consciousness fields in the middle, like this one. Eckhart Tolle has half here left and half right there. So it's a different consciousness field. Or this one has, you know, everything is like a very busy brain, an old, you know, crunching brain, but actually doesn't know what to do with it. It only knows what to do with it when somebody kind of squeezes the sponge, and then, oh wow, where did that come from? Yeah, you're hanging out with somebody who's squeezing in the right spaces. If this person with this crunching brain hangs out with morons that don't squeeze in the right places, not so much is going to come out of the potential that sits there. So I guess, to answer your question, that what you're saying, no, is like, yeah, there has been a slow build-up of more being born under certain configurations and other configurations and other configurations. And that actually started when we discovered Uranus in 1781. That's Uranus is a, he was talking about the fact that we're all related to the stars. No, we're not only related to the stars, we're also related to the planets. And when they enter into our consciousness field, something happens. Now, Uranus is an electrical, I don't know what name you got to give it, but some kind, actually the best representation of Uranus, no, is done by Alexander Jodorowsky in the movie Holy Mountain. If you look at that movie and you look who represents Uranus, it's some guy who is hanging out with a woman or something like that, sits on a very high toilet. I don't know what it was anymore, but it's a freak. Okay. And when Uranus came into our consciousness field as humans, it did something with the brain. It did something between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, and we started evolving into where we are now. And we are evolving and we are creating the ground, okay, to evolve into something that will finally trespass us on the evolutionary chain. I mean, we've been living on this planet for, I don't know what, 150,000 years as the kings of the jungle, and that's being over and done with. No? It's not going to be overnight, but in the next 200-300 years, we'll be aware that there is something walking around here that actually has an advantage over us. Can you imagine what that does? No? It's like we're able to kill anything. No? There's something going to come that's better equipped than you. So, of course, like all those things are, yeah, they're just, I don't know how to say it. It's interesting. It's interesting to see it play out. It's interesting to see it play out. And one of the things that actually caught my attention on that, no, was with all this thing about that, I don't know, I think how much, 80%, 70% of humanity has been injecting itself with some kind of antivirus vaccine, like, that has an influence on our DNA. Like, it's interesting. What will come out of that? What are the consequences going to be? We don't know. And I don't even know if it's got anything to do with it. But if something comes out of us in terms of, hey, I have a child who's being born and it's really awkward and I don't know what this is, of course there are going to be people that are going to be saying it's probably the, that and that is responsible for it. Who the hell knows? It's just funny to see that the information of all of that was already there in 1987. It's been recorded. So they're just musings, no? Like
anybody else? And then it's been an hour and a half. I don't think we should go too long. But Dirk, is there anything we can do as a group with you? Because of course, that's one thing. I'll share your details on the group. If anyone wants a reading, that's an intimate thing. They should do that. But is there anything as Paua? You had 20 people here, like 13 are left. But we're like 1,000. Let's call it 1,000 with 500-600 active. Is there anything you'd like to play with us, or that we can help you with, or that you can help us with? Or what we did, right? We did a conference in Paris. We have this course. We have a guest every Tuesday at 6. And we're like, let's say we're a community of people.
I mean, you can just play with there is a possibility to play with it. No, it's like next time you guys meet, on the tag that you put on the person who comes in, you're like,
we don't, but yes.
But what's your birth time? What's your this and that? And you put, here's my design. That's
human
my
design
essence.
profile. Yeah,
that's my essence. Okay. And I heard that you invited Richard Rudd last time, no? All of the gene keys, okay? Where do you think they come from? Richard Rudd was one of the best students in human design, has to be said. Incredible writing and stuff like that. He's born on the cross of consciousness. He's got a lot to share. So what Richard Rudd did was he took all of those gates, okay, and called them gene keys, which they are in a way, okay? And then he started writing about the 63rd gate, okay? And he said, and he has a very interesting, what's his perspective? His perspective is what I've tried to convey in some way. His perspective is, okay, guys, let's take this one. This gene key, okay? This gene key talks about, which is located over here, no? So that already gave him a lot of information. So this is the gene key that talks about universal love, and we're all an expression of love, and blah blah blah. Okay, he's very creative and romantic in his writing. And then he said, okay, but the way we've been going about this gene key, okay, is old programming. Okay, old programming means you're caught in the mind. So here he says there is a reactive way of going about it, and there's a repressive way of going about it, which are the two aspects of the mind. Okay, and the reactive way, I don't know, the repressive way, he called it it's contrived, and the reactive way, he called it it's, I don't know, aggressive or whatever. I don't remember the names. If I see it's like, okay, that. And then he says like, but you can upgrade the programming. And to upgrade the programming, he says like, there's a gift in this thing. If you go about it beyond mind, you get to the gift, which is basically how do you address this thing from the heart? That's what the gift is. Huh? And if you go beyond that, you get to the city. You get to, wow, the source of consciousness itself. Okay, then there he will probably call it universal love. Here he calls it being contrived or being whatever. And he has done that work with every key. With every key, he has done this exactly the same work. And that's what gene keys are. So it's an incredibly enriching perspective on human design. And there is his own creative touches on it for sure. Huh? But when the moment you see a person's design, you see like, oh, well, for example, who is this? No, that's a friend of mine. Well, whatever, this person, no, anyway, it's like you can meet her in your Paua and going like, well, did you read the 21st gene key? Because that's really an important gene key for you to look at, because your mind is constructed on your tendency to try to control. Or did you read this gene key? Or did you read this gene key? Because that's about your incarnation cross, or that's about how you stand in life, or that's your, the position of Mars within you. Those are all the keys. So when you do a Paua and you give a person a little, like their design, it can generate out of itself conversations. Some people will know, some people not, some this, some that. Questions are raised. Who do you know? Who knows how to read that? Blah, blah, blah. It will create interaction for sure. And then you can do next levels. You can say like, okay, let's put all the generators together. Let's put the projectors together. Let's put this this specific type with this specific type and see what comes out of that. Like, and let's put a reflector somewhere in the middle to, So there is obviously ways of playing with it and seeing what comes out of it without knowing. It's an experiment in a way. And given that you're already in it, that you're already, Richard Rudd is part of it in some level or another. So people are looking into gene keys who bought the book, or, it's great.
Okay, so one way to understand human design is to go through gene keys. All right.
No, one way of understanding the keys is to go to gene keys.
The keys.
The thing that I find, that's my personal observation on, and I know where it came from, but we're all allowed to have a critique, no? My critique is that just approaching gene keys can be very interesting in for you or anybody, but it takes away coding and consciousness at some level. Because if you take the keys out of the design, okay, you can be reflector, projector, manifesting generator. You're taking a very deep layer of awareness and consciousness, you hide it away. And why would you hide it? Fuck, finally it's out there and you're hiding it. But anyway, that's just you know, there were reasons, you know, I guess copyright reasons, or they didn't get along, or whatever, human stuff, you know, like, she's my girlfriend, you're not supposed to make love to her. Yeah, okay, whatever.
All right, are we complete?
Yeah, for me, it's
do you
just
want
fun to share.
Do you want to come back, like do anything with Paua, or should we just point people?
I would love it.
Is there anything you think we should, you know, do with you, that as a group? I mean,
I don't know. Like I would love to. It's like a door that opens. Open the door. Make it part of. Hey, if we meet next time in Paris, let's just all whatever, you know. Little. Here's this is who I am. You think I'm Dirk? Oh, that's that. You get to see me.
And so in the community, a little game we could do is maybe those who are here.
There's games in terms of. I think the easiest way to play the game is by putting types, energetic types together. Which means that we have a different orientation of life force. You are oriented towards doing, okay? That's generator or manifesting generator. Then you have manifestors. They are oriented, and oriented means life takes them like that. There's nothing that they do. It's just the way they're wired. So they're wired to be impactful. They can't avoid it. They come through the door and everybody goes, oh, okay, who's coming in here? And then you get projectors who are here to focus on another, read them, and provide them with guidance.
That's you, right? You're a projector.
No, I'm a reflector.
What is a reflector?
And then you get reflectors who are here to sample life. Like reflectors are, in some way or another, reflectors are like anthropologists. You put them in a tribe, they don't belong to it, they hang out with everybody, they do whatever they do, and then they come out and they go like, yeah, but hey, you know, I saw this and that, and I sampled this and that, and so that's how we work as reflectors. Which honestly, that's one of the reasons that I find it so difficult to concretize my insights or my professional orientation, because I function completely differently. I can give you an enormous amount of insights on all kinds of stuff, and it's a joy to be able to participate in these kind of things and to share some of it, because I rarely get the platform for it. But tomorrow I may be gardening. I mean, something else. And then I go, but while I'm gardening, I have the same perspective. I'm always.
You guys have to know that Dirk is almost not online. Like he doesn't, like you find him on WhatsApp, but he's not on social media.
Not so much, but I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. But you know, it's so there is ways of playing around with it. I think that you have to let it. You have to plant the seed and see where it takes. And if it takes somewhere, great. and then obviously you can always try more sophisticated stuff. No, you can try putting certain people together into small work groups and be sure that the work group as such is a configuration that is functional. That's like doing genetic engineering. It's like starting to take people and put them together and make sure that energetically they function in a certain way and see what comes out of it. But like genetic engineering, we know that we have to be very, we can have our profiles as tags also. Yeah, like, yeah. So one of the interesting things, no, that stuff that interests me personally is in Paua, for example. You guys are interested in, that's why I wanted to call this coding and consciousness. I find it so fascinating that in all tribal cultures on the world, there are medicine circles. Medicine circles and looking at northeast, south, north, south, east, west. And it's a very ancient program. And I find it very interesting that that stuff is now presented in terms of very detailed stuff that is related to the amino acids that build our genes. Like that I find really interesting. That when I've done vision quests, for example, and you sit in a vision quest and you're staring at the north for a day or 2 or 3 or 4, and you start feeling the frequency that comes from there and how it gets into you and your relation to it and what it makes you do in terms of how tears well up or memories well up, all this kind of stuff. And in human design, you can see, well, you're staring into treonin or you're staring into arginine. You know, your amino acids are resonating to the consciousness field that you're looking at. Like that level of detail is there. And that is astonishing. Not that you can, that what was ancient shamanic wisdom of the north brings us or the east brings us. You look at design and it's like, yeah, it does that to that gene of you, to that amino acid that creates that gene that does that in your body. Interesting. So there is where coding and consciousness come together. I don't know what, I have no idea, and that would be, what
makes me feel like something we could do is to find someone to code something on AI and human design. That would be fun.
That would be really
because
weird.
there's a bunch of human design apps, but basically you said they're kind of all crap, right? Is that what you said? You didn't say that, but kind of.
They're very basic.
Right.
Even
but it would be very interesting to have an AI. You know, could we load the whole human design into an AI and like turn this into some kind of an AI oracle? Not that we don't need Dirk anymore, but like I could ask, you know, like
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that's not your job for your design, right? Yeah, that's my job, I guess.
It's fascinating.
I'm trying to do something with it. I'm like, okay, cool. What can we do with it? You told me that's my right. Like, what can we do with this? Like, I've been thinking about that. But anyway, that could be cool. The AI human design.
I think that the beauty would be that we are able to use algorithms. Okay. Pardon the language, we're able to use algorithms to fuck with us. No? So that I buy this and I do that and I stay longer and I watch more and I get more, we're being used. Great. That's where we're at. If that is possible, then my brain cannot wrap its head around the fact that why we cannot turn it around. So there must be a possibility to use tech to go into the opposite direction. like it can empower you to feel this, or empower you to go there, or empower you to get in touch with that, or instead of being used. Like right now, okay, tech is at a stage where your mommy is manipulating you to eat the soup. Come on, eat the soup. Here's a lolly. Afterwards, you get a nice cookie. I eat the soup. And the cookie is being used. And for at this stage, that's where technology is at with us. It's using us.
Yeah.
It's using us to do and doing that. And human design shows you how it is doing it.
And is it connected to time as well? Like, is there, can you tell, like, from one to no? Like, if today I feel like shit, I'm just saying, or feel great, like, could you do an astrology reading with human design, or no? It's just a design of a person, or
No,
could
no,
you say?
You can see also, you can always, like, that's another aspect of design, obviously. It's like, what are we bombarded with today? Okay, so you go there and you go there, and this is like, okay, this is what we are bombarded with right now. So right now we are living in an environment, we call this in human design the neutrino weather. What's the weather like right now? The weather is pointing towards mutation. So we're living in a period right now that is pointing.
That's for everybody. What you're looking at.
Everybody. We're all going through mutation. So it can stir up in a bunch of people, bored. When is something going to change? I'm bored with life. I want something different. I want change. I want something else. This is the same. This is fucking annoying. Where's the difference? This ain't going anywhere. Yeah, you're being pressurized to mutate in the way that you care about life on top of it. Okay. So, and the other aspect that is there right now is that there is a perspective on future, leading it into the future, looking forward. There needs to be something that's going to change, that can lead us into a better future. Everybody's being bombarded with that. And yeah, so we're living in a time period where we're open to a lot of unexpectedness. All of a sudden, oh shit, things turn out completely differently from what I thought. And it goes like that. Look at very slow moving influences. Pluto is a very slow moving influence, and Pluto is standing over here at the mutation. So Pluto is destroying for the moment all the old ground that we're standing on. It's like shaking everything up in the unconscious of humans, in the unconscious of society, in the old structures that kept everything together. There is like an enormous, like, earthquake going on, Plutonian earthquake going on. And the third gate over here comes and goes. Now it's in the moon, so it's not staying long. It's only there, like, it's going to be left there for what, 2-3 hours, 4 hours, and then it changes. But Pluto is always staying, and Pluto is staying for years. And for years, it's shaking up the grounds that we stand on. And another one that's very slow moving is Neptune. Neptune has been standing in a gate that has to do with crisis in our human experience for, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years since the pandemic. Shaking up, emotional crisis, different experiences. We need to go about this differently. This ain't going anywhere. This is fucked up. This is what the fuck, like crisis. And it will move. It's been moving. And like that, like it moves, all these things move. And right now, the contribution of how those things are moving is clearly at the deepest point. There is Plutonian destructuring of society. There is Neptunian crisis and change. And the crisis and change of Neptune is saying that instead of newness being out there, okay, it ain't. So from a Neptunian perspective, Elon Musk is wrong. Because Neptune is saying it's not about conquering more terrain anymore. There is nothing fertile out there. You can go to Mars and whatever. There's nothing out there for you. The Neptunian influences are saying that it's a time to go in. That it's all about exploring consciousness inside. Outside, we've discovered what we needed to discover, and that's it. And we have some years left to discover what else is needed in order to deal with a big shift of consciousness that it's pushing us inward. And then you get Uranus. Now, Uranus is also a slow-moving planet, but a little bit faster. And Uranus is bringing newness, is bringing. Actually, it's an enormous technological force. So Uranus is now entering over here, which is at the doorstep of entering into the human brain. Like, that's it. And before doing that, Uranus was going, we can see this now. So Uranus was here. Huh? So Uranus over here is when algorithms got invented. So when Uranus was going through all the emotional gates, okay, so algorithms got invented when Uranus was in a position that it said, like, here's how you can, screw them over emotions. Like, don't like, fuck you, this, that, blah, blah. Oh, we got them. We got them technologically. We know now. And then it got deeper into cognition. And it got a whole period of going deeper into cognition. And now it crossed the threshold over here in the last 2 years where it entered into the body. So now they're reading, like AI is reading your brain waves and turning it into language and going, and that's where we're now. It's turning stuff into language. It's in the throat. And it will go all the way, all this whole Uranian period over here, which is going to take about 20 years, is deeper and deeper and deeper into the body. So that's Uranus influence. And then there is some more more quick moving planets. So they have so you can always look at the neutrino weather and where we're at, and it's a different perspective. It's a little bit more precise than astrology in a way, or different.
Dirk, I need to go personally, but I think we are.
Like,
left. So
of course, thank you.
I have an idea for you. I'll say it in public, and then we can talk about it. But rather than we can do, I hope you get many readings from us. I will post your details. Can I post it straight your WhatsApp details, or you want? Celeste, Okay, you might get. I'm hoping it should be quality, but I'll post it to 600 people. So we'll see. But one thing I would do, if you're game, I have followed a few courses where you pay like $200. But you're a group, so like if it's 20 of us and you get 4,000 or 5,000 euros instead of 200, and we do like 7 or 8 sessions. So that would be one. That's the introduction session, and then we, you could teach basically whatever you think. I would be interested in that definitely, instead of just a reading, right? So maybe
I love teaching. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's keep that in mind. You have Celeste, Mihai, and Alex here from the community, so we could make this the first class. I would love that. The first Paua class is Dirk, and we I don't know. We define like $200 for 8 calls or something. Then it's like 30 or 40 each. But as many people as you get, you make money, and I would love to see it happen.
Yeah, me too, because that's one of the things. Oh, well, okay. Great.
All right, so we're doing it. Let's see how
Thanks
many
a lot,
people we
Loic.
get.
Thanks
Yeah,
a lot for
let's
this
see how many people.
opportunity.
No,
And
thank you for
I don't
your
know.
time.
Yes, my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dirk. Talk to you
Ciao.
soon, Vanel.
Bye, Celeste. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess.
We'll
Thanks.
set that up. Bye bye.
Yep. Bye.